The name Bishop J. Drew Sheard has always echoed with unmatched authority and unity within the Church of God in Christ. A man of vision, strength, and profound spiritual influence, he has dedicated decades to building communities, lifting lives, and carrying the weight of one of the most powerful legacies in the Church. But now, after years of unwavering service and leadership, Bishop Sheard has made a shocking announcement that no one saw coming. He's stepping down not in peace, but in pain. A betrayal so deep, so personal, it's shaking the very core of one of COGIC's most revered figures. What could break the heart of a man who has given everything to this faith? Stay with us, because the truth behind his departure is far darker and more complicated than we ever imagined. This story will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about the Church of God in Christ. In this video, we're revealing what actually transpired behind closed doors. From boardroom power struggles and high-level betrayal to private breakdowns and startling reactions from church members and family, you won't believe who was involved and who remained silent. We'll also break down what caused this emotional outburst, why Bishop Sheard's inner circle is divided, and what this could mean for the future of both parties. A man named John Drew Sheard was born into a lineage of spiritual power and purpose and raised in a devout Pentecostal household under the guidance of his father, Bishop John H. Sheard, Young. If you have ever admired Bishop Sheard's strength or believed in the integrity of church leadership, you should listen to what actually happened, because this isn't just a leadership shift. It's a spiritual earthquake before the heartbreak, betrayal, and headlines that would shake the COGIC community. From the beginning, Drew was surrounded by the teachings of holiness, obedience, and fierce devotion to God's calling. It was evident that he wasn't just going to serve the church, he was going to lead it. However, don't be fooled by this. Bishop Sheard's ascent to the top of the Church of God in Christ didn't happen overnight. It took decades of unrelenting service, vision, and hard work. He started out as a humble pastor in Detroit, leading Greater Emmanuel Institutional COG, transforming a local church into a spiritual epicenter. When his time came, the church took notice. In 2021, during a period of internal unrest, Bishop Sheard was elected as the presiding bishop of COGIC, becoming the face of a denomination with over 6 million members worldwide. For many, he symbolized a new era that was highly respected, deeply rooted in tradition, yet open to modern reform. His words touched souls. His music ministry touched generations, and his leadership attracted followers from all over the country. Beyond the pulpit, Bishop Sheard's marriage to gospel powerhouse Karen Clark made them one of the most admired couples in Black Christian culture. Together, they symbolized not just ministry but legacy. He was leading a church, launching outreach programs, expanding COGIC's media presence, and handling controversial issues with grace. Whether standing in front of thousands at Holy Convocation or ministering privately to broken families, everything changed when betrayal crept in from the inside. For years, Bishop J. Drew Sheard led with confidence and integrity, believing that the leadership surrounding him shared his vision, values, and faith. But as we'll see in the next section, Bishop Sheard was emotionally unraveling, withdrawing from important meetings and considering stepping down. Many people didn't believe it. According to several reliable sources close to national church leadership, tensions had been quietly building behind the scenes for more than a year. Disagreements about finances, organizational direction, and even theological focus began to surface, and they weren't just passionate debates but intense, behind-the-scenes power struggles at the heart of the COGIC General Board. Insiders now reveal that the betrayal that broke him didn't come from outsiders, but rather from the very people he trusted the most. Bishop Sheard reportedly opposed a contentious restructuring proposal that would have taken power away from the presiding bishop, saying he felt taken by surprise and that they wanted to make him a figurehead. He said, "You don't get to rewrite decades of sacrifice with one vote." While Bishop Sheard maintained a composed professional facade in public, those close to him claimed that he became more and more distant. Friends observed a shift in his tone, which was guarded, tired, and occasionally silent when questioned about board matters. However, this was not just political betrayal, it was also personal. A longtime colleague whom Bishop Sheard had mentored for years allegedly joined a small faction with the intention of forcing the presiding bishop to resign early. Some speculated that this was motivated by ambition, while others said jealousy. Regardless of the motivation, the consequences were disastrous. Bishop Sheard reportedly found private emails and messages between board members that questioned his leadership and made fun of his emotional response to a recent family illness. According to sources, Bishop Sheard locked himself in his office for almost 4 hours after reading those emails and messages, refusing to speak to anyone, including his assistant and wife Karen. One employee from the national headquarters in Memphis said, "We knew something had broken. That man carried the weight of a denomination, and all of a sudden, it felt like someone had pulled the ground out from under him." Over the next few days, Bishop Sheard reportedly started to cancel speaking engagements, delegate important responsibilities, and withdraw from crucial decision-making meetings. Those who attempted to contact him claimed they were politely declined or ignored entirely. Before the bombshell was dropped in a private leadership call that only a select few attended, Bishop Sheard, a trusted advisor, announced that he would be leaving his active duties as presiding bishop due to emotional distress, spiritual exhaustion, and what he described as a betrayal that went too deep to ignore. He concluded the call with a line that no one expected to hear: "If I can't trust the ones closest to me, I can't lead them." But this is where it gets even more painful. The COGIC is dividing because the leadership has yet to publicly address the betrayal, no formal investigation or apology. More than ever, the community felt that Bishop J. Drew Sheard would return after a period of rest when he quietly started to step away from public ministry. However, when First Lady Karen Clark Sheard, a gospel icon, powerhouse vocalist, and wife of more than 30 years, finally broke her silence, it became evident that this wasn't just a temporary break, but rather a deep spiritual wound. And Karen wasn't holding back in a rare Instagram live session that has since been reshared across countless platforms. Karen looked teary-eyed while wearing a simple outfit. Her voice trembled as she addressed the rumors and silence surrounding her husband's abrupt departure from his iconic leadership role. "This man gave everything to the church, every late night, every flight, every sacrifice, and they broke him." She paused, holding back tears. "You have no idea what it's like to see the strongest man you know wonder if he failed God, when in reality, he was failed by fans and churchgoers who flooded the comments in shock and support." She was wearing a black hoodie, no makeup, no glam, just a grieving wife hiding visible pain. Karen continued by describing how Bishop Sheard had stopped praying aloud at home, something he had done every day for decades, and had become quiet, withdrawn, and distant not from his faith, but from the institution he once gave everything to. "He didn't lose his faith in God," Karen said, "but his heart is broken by the people he thought were standing with him." It was shocking to see such unvarnished honesty from a first lady who is typically known for her poise and restraint. But what transpired next painted a clearer picture of how deeply the betrayal had affected their entire family. But it wasn't just church politics. According to Karen's livestream, the betrayal occurred when their family was already coping with personal loss and health concerns. She disclosed for the first time in public that one of Bishop Sheard's closest relatives had been gravely ill only weeks prior to the internal fallout, and that, rather than receiving support from other leaders, they were met with coldness, distance, and backdoor tactics to deprive Bishop Sheard of influence. Karen even implied that some board members were pushing for Karen's final remarks, sent shivers down the spine of the church community. This wasn't just disrespect, it was spiritual sabotage. Generational change implied that Bishop Sheard, a legacy figure, was too bound by tradition. "They smiled in our faces and whispered behind our backs, saying, 'And my husband still showed up and served like nothing was wrong.' That's real strength." The impact of her statement was immediate, as gospel artists, pastors, and even secular celebrities reposted the clip to show support for Bishop Sheard and calling for Twitter threads trending with hashtags like "Spark a Stand with Sheard" and "Kick Accountability," calling for transparency from church leadership. In reaction to the COGIC board's silence response, have yet to get an official statement from no explanation, no denial, and that silence from the COGIC National Board was starting to feel like complicity. But the story doesn't end there. When the public first learned of Bishop J. Drew Sheard's emotional departure, many people expected the Church of God in Christ to make a quick, clear statement, perhaps a tribute, an explanation, or simply a moment of silence to honor decades of leadership, but nothing of that sort. Instead, silence sparked a firestorm among the COGIC community, which had long looked to Bishop Sheard as a symbol of organizational stability and spiritual strength. What happened in the days and weeks following his quiet departure wasn't just rumors. It was an uprising, with churchgoers from Detroit to Dallas to Memphis to Milwaukee posting videos on Facebook Lives and TikToks, and fervent open after a pastor from Ohio went viral with his sermon titled, "When the Shepherd is Wounded," which was obviously a reference to Shear's predicament. COGIC members started tagging board members, emailing the district superintendent, and starting online petitions. The pastor's haunting question was, what happens to the flock when the leadership lets the shepherd bleed out in silence? As local churches started holding vigils, prayer calls, and fasts in support of Bishop Sheard, some church mothers broke down in tears during testimonies, citing how they had watched him grow from a young preacher into a powerful bishop, and now they were watching him walk away wounded. KJIC youth groups. Meanwhile, an organization campaign called Reinstate and Respect Bishop Sheard gathered over 30,000 signatures in less than a week. To make matters worse, some board members were reportedly blocking people who questioned the silence, which only served to stoke suspicions that something darker was being concealed. Spoke out against the institutional politics that enabled this to occur, especially in urban areas, and in support of Sheard. On TikTok, younger members produced explainer videos that dissected what they see as a covert power grab, arguing that the situation revealed deeper systemic problems within church leadership. In one of the most heartbreaking moments to go viral, a teenage girl from Georgia stood up during her church testimony service and said, "Bishop Sheard is the reason I came back to church now, y'all." Perhaps the most damning blow came when several respected bishops and superintendents broke ranks and released anonymous statements of support for Bishop Sheard. Although no names were given, it was obvious that what happened to Bishop Sheard was unfair, and he stayed because he refused to leave. These weren't just outbursts, they were a collective cry, a spiritual reckoning for many. When the community continued to roar, demanding more, Bishop Sheard remained silent until a private message surfaced that would give everyone chills. Just when it seemed like the firestorm surrounding Bishop J. Drew Sheard's departure from COGIC could not get any more intense, the conversation abruptly changed from one man's departure to the foundational cracks of one of the largest Pentecostal denominations in the world. It was never intended to go public, according to reports. Bishop Sheard had originally sent the voice memo to a small group of trusted regional pastors with whom he had mentored and ministered for decades. The message was intended to be private, a final word of encouragement before he stepped back from the chaos. But one of those pastors, either out of concern or conviction, quietly leaked it online, and it completely changed everything. To a Facebook COGIC discussion group, the audio quickly spread across WhatsApp chains, YouTube channels, and Twitter threads. Bishop Sheard's words moved thousands of people to tears, and his voice was noticeably worn out and quiet. Instead of the commanding tone that KJIC members were accustomed to hearing at convocation, it was a broken man attempting to cling to his faith while letting go of everything else. "I'm grateful to those who still love me and believe in God in me, even though I never imagined I'd be the one." He continued to describe the betrayal without naming the person, but with piercing honesty, saying, "I gave my life to this church, missed birthdays, anniversaries, and my own healing because I believed in this calling." At one point, his voice cracked, and I watched people I trusted pretend like they didn't see me break. That's the part that hurt the most. Not the schemes, but writing the final page before I wanted to. But I'm tired not of serving, but of being surrounded by silence when I needed strength. The message ended in silence, but as if he were reverting to his pastoral heart. Bishop Sheard said, "If my leaving brings peace to this church, then I'll carry that cross, but never forget this. I served with love and I leave with love." That last line, "I leave with love," became a viral hashtag that trended across gospel platforms and appeared on Instagram stories. Tributes from fans and other leaders, as well as merchandise mock-ups. The memo was subsequently verified as genuine by two pastors who had been given it. But even with the media's and the public's overwhelming support, note that the COGIC General Board said absolutely nothing. Response to the leak, no recognition of its contents, and not even an effort to mitigate the harm to many. Only confirmed what they had always feared, that the betrayal was real, that the silence was calculated, and that Bishop Sheard's suffering had been ignored in order to preserve power rather than people. However, the church cannot proceed without the truth, and the noise at the grassroots level is taking the place of the silence at the top. Despite the chaos, one question now dominates the picture. What does the future hold for COGIC as a whole? Not just for Bishop Sheard? With Bishop J. Drew Sheard leaving in silence and the Church of God in Christ's leadership refusing to face the betrayal head-on, the entire denomination is now at a painful crossroads. This is not just about a bishop resigning, it's a spiritual reckoning that will last for decades. The glue that kept the denomination together during some of its most turbulent moments. From generational leadership gaps to internal power struggles, national tragedies, and theological debates, was Bishop Sheard. He was a leader who embraced tradition but wasn't afraid to evolve. Now that the glue is gone and the cracks are starting to show, church members from every jurisdiction are demanding more transparency. Local COGIC youth ministries are changing, with many moving away from blind loyalty and toward real accountability. They are asking bold questions like, who will lead with integrity? Who will protect the legacy of those who gave their lives to this church? Will we let another leader fall without lifting them up? In the midst of all the pain, one thing is clear: bishops are being asked to address their congregations and speak openly about what happened. Some are refusing to remain silent any longer, even if it means jeopardizing their own positions. Sheard's influence won't go away with his job. In fact, people close to him say that even though he stepped down from official duties, he isn't completely leaving the ministry. He is reportedly thinking of starting his own mentorship program that would train young pastors in a way that is based solely on biblical truth and authentic leadership, away from church politics and bureaucracy. He has also been spending more time with his wife Karen, leaning into their family, and Bishop Sheard is reportedly writing a personal final message to the people of COGIC, not out of retaliation or to expose, but to heal, because even after being betrayed, he still loves the church and the people who call the faith home. He finally gave everything to one family friend, and he is now learning to receive again. There are also rumors of a book and possibly even a documentary.